Welcome back to my... I need some coffee. Welcome back to my garage. Today testing of my home-built supercharged 50cc engine will commence. Last time the engine was struggling with maintaining spark when it started entering the power band with all the pressure from the blower and the pipe and all that methanol and nitromethane, which makes the mixture really hard to ignite. Could be the coil. I've got a more powerful one here. We're gonna use that today. It could also just be ignition timing. It's not confirmed yet. I couldn't get my timing light to work. I think it does work though. It's just that I'm an idiot. Again, you see there's an arrow here, and that arrow has to point towards the plug when you attach this. I'm not the kind of guy who throws the manual away. I actually really enjoy reading manuals. I knew this, but somehow it never occurred to me to check while we were testing last time. Spent yesterday driving around picking up some supplies. And I also picked up a new timing light. And this didn't occur to me until I got back home. Now I've got a new timing light. This one's supposed to be higher quality and better. And it has some advanced features, like you can set the ignition advance in the light. I'm gonna keep it. Have this one as a spare, if it works. Not confirmed though. Let's get to work. First operation is replacing that flashy flamethrower coil with this more subtle one. I haven't got the correct plug. I thought it would be easy to find one that would fit. Turns out it isn't. At least not here in Norway. Got the correct female pins for it though. I'll have to plug the wires in individually. Shouldn't be a problem. While driving around yesterday, I was looking for the right crimping tool for these. Could not find it though. All I've got are things that kind of work. This one kind of works. The worst crimping tool ever though. And this one kind of works. It's no better. It's nice for stripping though. We'll make it work. Not perfect, but it works. I'm doubling up the heat shrink since there's no like dividers in a connector, as I haven't got a connector. I really wish I'd found the correct crimpers. Like that. Yet again, the water is heating up. First, we're gonna see if we can confirm and adjust timing this time, and then see if we can make some power and see if the more powerful coil helps. I have to perform a little maintenance on my exhaust extraction, which blew up last time. I'll reset my ignition curve in the software to just a flat line, 15 degrees. Since ignition timing will stay at 15 degrees all the time. Now we can check with the light and see if that really is 15 degrees. If it's say 10, we'll change base advance to 10 degrees. And then all the numbers here will correspond to real numbers. I also acquired some more gloves yesterday. Of all the things my hands encounter, methanol and nitromethane seems to be the substance that dries my hands out the worst. I always thought acetone would be one of the worst in respect to hand drying outness. Well, turns out either methanol or nitromethane are much worse. That's probably enough. And with enough, I mean enough for testing ignition timing and maybe 2 or 3 runs on the dyno. It's thirsty. Ignition timing confirmed, sitting at very close to 10 degrees, not the 15, which it was supposed to sit at. 15 degrees, we'll turn that down to 10 degrees. Now we can create a typical two-stroke map. Let's keep it at 15 degrees to about 2000 RPM for easy starting. We'll ramp it up to 30 degrees at 6,000. Keep it at 30 to about 9,000. The power bank kicks in at around 13, 14. Let's bring it down to 20 degrees at 14,000. With normal gasoline temperatures, the pipe should be tuned to about 19, 20,000 RPM. Probably lower with the methanol and nitro and all the oil and lower temperatures. Let's pretend peak power sits at 16,000 as it is now. We'll do 15 degrees at 16,000. And then we'll further retard the timing down to 10 degrees at 20,000. Might be a little bit much with 20 degrees at 14. Let's bring 20 to 13,000. Lots of noise on the ignition trigger. I'll just have to check if there's anything I can move around here. Very likely the new coil causing more interference. I'm just going to unhook the brake for now and see how it behaves without the brake applying any load. See how it behaves with just the inertia of the retarder. We've encountered somewhat of a catch-22 here. Seems to run great with the new coil, revs crisper and higher, but the new coil is interfering with dyno RPM signal. That signal is taken directly from the ignition unit. It could be that the coil is interfering with the ignition unit. I don't think so though. I think we would have seen many more backfires than the one we encountered there. I'm already running a resistor spark plug and a resistor spark plug cap, but just a normal copper spark plug wire, no resistance at all. We should try this superconductor spark plug wire. Even though it's called a superconductor, it conducts worse than the copper wire. It has some resistance, not much though, like 100 ohm. Could be there's some interference reducing witchcraft in here. Gotta find out. This is not a resistor cap. This one is, with 5K, which means there has to be some really hardcore witchcraft in here for this to be better. Let's see. Well, that didn't make much difference at all. Gotta figure out something here. The obvious place to start would be here. This is my ignition unit. It's sitting on a chair. This is the RPM out signal wire. It's traveling to this shielded cable to the dyno unit, and there's an octocoupler at the other end. The shield is connected to dyno controller ground only. This could be a problem though. I haven't cut down any of these wires because I might need them and I don't know what length I might need. That's why. And they're really hard to de-pin, these contacts. You need a special tool. Running out of space on my SD card. You might remember I'm filming in 400 megabits per second. I'll go inside and transfer the files, and I'll have some time for contemplating what to do here. Cleaning up things properly would be the obvious solution. I went and bought some stuff. This is aluminium heat shielding. It's lined with fiberglass. I'm not going to use it primarily as a heat shield though. I'm going to use it as a noise shield. I was a little bit concerned there was some kind of a plastic coating on here though, but Seems to be fine. Same goes to the tape. Taking inspiration from small aircraft, the first thing I'm going to do is completely encase the plug, spark plug lead, coil, everything in a shield and have that grounded to the engine. In practice, that's kind of like if the coil was internal to the engine block. Very thin engine block. Then we're going to give that RPM wire between the ignition unit and the dyno unit some extra shielding. I'm going to pay special attention to the optocoupler circuitry, which isn't shielded at all. And I suspect that's the problem. Okay. Also going back to the normal copper spark plug wire with the resistor spark plug cap. I'm not totally sold on the helically wound thing around a special core. I have a feeling all the fancy talk is most about selling stuff, not about performance. Or EMI suppression or RF suppression. Like that. If everything went to plan, there should be an electrical connection between this and this now. Yes, there is. Perfect. There's a slight gap here. Maybe I should fill that in with some tape. That'll do. I'm looking forward to this failing. Then I can say it was good enough for NASA, but not for me. Real space age technology going on here. My octocoupler sits in here. It isolates the ignition unit from the dyno unit. Not shielded. The shield ends here. And this is outside the shield. I'm going to use some tape and extend that shield over the whole thing here. This is all temporary. Like you haven't heard that before. Will our NASA spec aircraft type spark plug wire shielding work? We'll soon find out, because the water is heating up and we'll soon be ready for you know the drill. Just a quick thing, the dyno software and hardware I'm using is from yourdyno.com. It's great stuff, and all the trouble I'm having here is not that stuff's fault. The problem is I'm using it in a way it's really not supposed to be used. I have the load cell mounted to the engine to measure torque directly, which means I need to use the RPM of the engine as the retarder RPM. And thereby, the PID numbers, they're totally different from what everybody else is using on this kind of setup. Well, not this kind of setup, but a retarder dyno setup. This is not how people usually build a dyno. But I really want to take torque directly from the engine, with all the complication that brings with it. It's probably a wise idea to drain the system of fuel, dry the spark plug before we start testing. Still the same problem. Good enough for NASA, not good enough for me. Could be we need to shield the positive ignition wire going from the ignition unit to the coil. It is carrying rapid pulses of 400-500 volts, and now there's probably more current as this coil is hungry. Let's try that. My fear now is that I've just brought the noise from here closer to the ignition unit. We'll see. That was obviously not the way to go. Made things much worse. Confirmed my fears of bringing the noisemaker closer to the one afraid of noise. Of many things afraid of noise here. Let's try removing all the NASA spec stuff except for the extra shielding over the octocoupler there. See if that helps. This tape is both fragile and grabby, which makes it really hard to remove. You can't help but wondering if all these space agency people, are they all idiots? Complete idiots. Nope. We're back to how it was before all that failed shielding. I can pretty much conclude it's noise from the ignition that's doing this. Seems to not be affecting the connection between the Arduino box and the computer. When I brought that shielding up to the ignition unit and closer to the RPM sensor wire, we started seeing interference on the USB connection. Our problem seems to be somewhere along that RPM sensor wire. It's shielded though. Maybe that shield, which is connected to the shield input of the Arduino box, is acting like some kind of an antenna. We should try running just plain wiring from the dyno box to the optocoupler, then into the Arduino box. No shielding. The box is optically isolated from the signal coming from this wire. So the only physical connection is through that shield. I have some unshielded wiring prepared. First, let's see how it works with the shield disconnected from the controller. The oldest mistake in the book. I had the wires mixed up. The next day we're back at it with the walk through RFI and EMI hell. I have a feeling my big antenna here is maybe the cause of the problem. This contact is really hard to de-pin, it turns out. I've tried. I'll just cut them and order a new harness for when I need it. That's all the wires I could remove. This is everything I removed from the harness. Got the ignition unit here in this plastic tub and the battery here. Ground wires and the ignition pickup wires are routed on the top here and down to the engine. RPM signal from the ignition unit to the dyno unit is routed in this cable, far away from everything else, all the way over here. Might not be the most convenient thing having it lying on the floor. Might put it in a tube of some sort or something. And first, let's see if this helped. Yes! I haven't got the other camera set up for different angles and stuff, but just let's try to do a run now, as it finally works. We're closing in on both the dyno and the engine working properly now. I did get a couple of runs in, but I couldn't give it full throttle. It would just gurgle, probably getting too much fuel now. And ignition timing might be too retarded up there. I'm not sure, this is stuff we need to find out. In that last run we saw over 20 horsepower, even though it was at half throttle and gurgling and all that stuff. The power band seems to be lower than it's supposed to be with that pipe, and that's probably because the exhaust gases are so cool. Could also be because it's getting far too much fuel up there, and also timing could be too much retarded or too advanced. Stuff we need to find out. I'll leave it here like this now, and I can go into the weekend not only out of the RFE and EMI hell, but with somewhat of a success on my hands for now. See you next time.